Hello everyone, I'm Thomas Wooden Railway, and today we are going to take a look at one of the longest lasting and one of the most important toys in Thomas and Friends history. This is the TOMY Thomas Big Loader set, and if you know anything about Thomas and Friends merchandise, you will know that this is an important toy. I remember seeing it as a kid growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, and there's even a version that was still produced as of a couple of years ago. The history behind this toy is simply fascinating. It's really worth a whole video on its own, but I'm going to do the best I can in this video to kind of explain some neat fun facts and information that I've discovered while researching this toy. We are going to take a look at unboxing this item. I'm going to set it up on the table here. We'll see how it works, how it interacts, and then kind of like my final thoughts on the Thomas Big Loader set. The version I have is dated 2001, and it was new in the box when I picked it up about 5 years ago. But shortly thereafter, I took it out of the box because I wanted to see what the deal was. And as the years have gone on, I've taken it places with me. It's kind of a cool thing I like to bring to meetups or when I'm hanging out with friends who are into Thomas. We all kind of gather around and watch it do its thing, and it is kind of, it's trance-inducing, I will say. You want to sit there and you want to watch it and you want to see if it works to perfection. So this item was new when it came to my possession, but as you can tell, it sat somewhere for a very long time new in the box. Then I came along and unboxed it, and now I'm finally bringing this video to YouTube where I want to show you all the awesomeness that is the Thomas Big Loader. The story of how I got this item is actually pretty interesting. I got it right smack dab in the middle of 2020 when the world was crazy and porch pickup on Facebook Marketplace became a very popular thing to do. And so this seller was getting rid of a bunch of Thomas stuff from the era, one of them being, you know, the Big Loader set, but they also had listed like some old TOMY, like a TOMY turntable set that was new in the box. And that was actually one of the things I wanted that I messaged her about. But then when I went to go pick up this item, the thing that she laid out on the front of her house for me to pick up was this Big Loader set. And I mean, I could have definitely, you know, gotten the right item, but I also kind of took it as like a stroke of good luck and decided to take the item instead and look at it. So here are most of the items that are included in the Thomas Big Loader set. Like I said, at one point this set was brand new in the box, but has since been taken out probably a half dozen times since then. But this is the most important piece of the entire set. This little workhorse piece right here powers the whole thing. And if you don't know anything about the Thomas Big Loader set, you are in for a real treat this video. However, I'd say most of us have seen this toy operating, you know, at one point or another, so it's not really anything new. But if you don't know anything about this toy, please stick around because I think you'll be surprised as to how it works. Yeah, this is like the one little motorized engine or piece that does all the work. Very interestingly, it is dated, copyrighted 1997 TOMY. Made in Thailand. This toy just has a very fascinating story that I'll get into in just a moment. But there are a lot of pros and a lot of awesome things about this toy, which I'm definitely going to highlight. But then there are some drawbacks. It's not your usual toy, and one of those being, since this is the thing that, you know, runs the whole set and produces all that awesome playtime, if this breaks or gets lost or anything happens, you're in trouble. You basically can't use the set, but we'll talk about this in a little bit. It said on the box batteries aren't included, so somewhere along the line I must have gone in and got a battery to get this thing up and running. The characters included include Thomas, but as you can see, it's only really like half of Thomas. I like to call these things like the little shells, the little maybe casings of the characters included, and that's because this workhorse piece, these characters are transported around the layout or the set by this piece right here, and you'll see how it works in just a little bit. But yeah, we kind of get like half a Thomas, just the upper half with no wheels or anything. I am glad I ended up getting one of these from the year 2001. There is a more current version of this toy out there, which I'll talk about later in the video. But I did kind of want to see, you know, I'd say like the peak or the pinnacle of Thomas merchandise was probably around this point, where they were just throwing Thomas's face on everything. So having the toy from this era, to me, is a little bit special. It's very lightweight, but it's pretty, sturdy plastic. And I can't remember, there are some stickers here, and I really don't remember when I, picked this up, if you had to put all the stickers on the items. I do have another sticker sheet we'll talk about later. But really, yeah, it's just like a plastic, shell. And if you want any detailing on the characters, I'm guessing I probably had to come in and put these stickers on, but time will tell. That's a very good Thomas face, though. It's definitely it's definitely an late 90s, early 2000s face for sure. Here's Percy that's included, and I'd say Percy's face is maybe even better than Thomas's. It's a little too big for how we know Percy, but I wouldn't be surprised. Besides some minor changes to the design, these are basically the same toy. They did do something really nice, and they put, they gave Percy kind of a unique shape, which is really, really cool. Same thing though, we're missing some wheels underneath. Again, this sort of just sits on top of that writing gray piece as Percy rolls around. But both of these items, I don't think I ever really talked about this with Thomas. Both of them have some movable pieces. For example, Percy's coal bunker, which is very exaggerated, moves. That'll play into the fun a little bit later. And then all of basically Thomas's, back half, his cab is very pushed forward, but basically entire back, I guess I'd call it the bunker, but it's not quite the same as Percy's. Percy's is just a tiny little area. Thomas's is the big area. Those are movable. And then our third character included is Terrence the Tractor. I know that in some versions of this set, I haven't been able to quite find some concrete information on this, but sometimes Lori is included, and he has sort of an attachment on him that basically acts the same as Terrence here. Terrence, if we're being honest, Terrence doesn't really look like he normally does. He's normally a tractor, but it's no secret that as a tractor, he could have like these pretty cool attachments that could be used in certain situations. So Terrence is looking a little bit different than we're used to, but he still passes. And honestly, I don't really know what other character you would include. I think of this arm here. And when you look at the box, Terrence, the arm is kind of like a shovel. It's not really like a crane arm like Cranky, for example. This was right before Jack and the Pack episodes came out. So maybe if this set, had, received an upgrade around that time, honestly, I could maybe see a front loader like Jack coming in and being more, I wouldn't say useful, but just being more appropriate to the set. But regardless, Terrence is still a nice addition. His face, without the eyebrows, though, that's just how Terrence looked back in the day, I guess. So, anyway, those are the main pieces. Let's actually put this thing together and get it up and running. So this set probably did come with instructions back in the day, but unfortunately mine have been lost to time. How I'm going to put this set together is simply by looking at the box artwork back there, and it's not that difficult of a build. It takes about 5 minutes, which really isn't that bad. However, if you don't have the instructions, I do recommend looking for this piece right here. This is kind of I guess the starting area or the handoff area between Thomas and Percy. You can see which sides they're supposed to live on. So this is kind of our nice starting area, and then we immediately jump into one of these, what I would call switchback pieces or whatever. The track system with this toy is a bit interesting. It's not really my favorite. It doesn't really follow any of the other TOMY track systems that I've seen before, or any other Thomas track system. So, when you're dealing with it for the first time, it's you kind of want to start here. It gets a little bit confusing, and then I have in the past have tried to line up, there's these traction areas on the edges around each piece. I've tried to line up the traction areas before, and honestly it just, really gives me fits after a while. So anyway, I just tend to just kind of mess around with it until it ends up working. It's not official or nice by any means. But then we get some straight pieces of track here that, again, instead of, I'm used to laying track on top of each other, kind of like wooden railway track, but you kind of are supposed to slide it together I don't know, maybe Trackmaster track would be a nice way to put it. So looking at the picture back there, Percy has a bit of a long section And then we go around to this area right here, which I might have to scoot the box back for. So there's a number of interactive areas with this toy. There's plenty to see, plenty to do. When this toy gets up and running, you're not obviously going to see everything that happens in the first time, and that's what kind of makes it magical, is that you do have to watch it a couple of times, you know, to really enjoy and kind of see everything. This is like the coal loader, coal hopper area. I believe I put this together right. I guess we'll find out. Having worked with this toy before, Percy comes along and nudges this little area here, which kind of creates some fun moments, and then it immediately rolls into this piece right there. However, I think I believe this goes like this. There's sort of like it's almost like a siding, like a buffer area. I think what I'm missing is this brown piece right here. It clips into this red piece, attaches to both. Okay, that appears to be right. I didn't hear a click or anything, but we're going to call that good. So yeah, this red piece is kind of the bridge piece between the first couple of sections here. Let's quickly run our way around to the other side. This is Thomas's side of the toy, and then we do get, you know, what I would consider to be a pretty normal, you know, piece for somebody who has worked with Wooden Railway. It's this T-switch here. So this is where Terrence is going to operate. And then there is a piece back here where we have some elevation action going on. And then there's like a nice, almost Lego style clip at the top here. And then we have a few more minor details to put in here. And yeah, honestly, for not having the directions and just looking off of the box in the background, I think we're pretty much there. However, if you know anything about this set, we are missing one very important item. Yes, the plastic balls included in this set are the bane of many people's existence. They're supposed to represent, you know, presumably like these little coal pellets, let's call them. But 12 of them come in the set. I don't even think this is the original bag. But this is really where all of the action lies. Of course, we have like our gray workhorse over there that is going to move things around. But in terms of, you know, the actual, I guess, like toy time that's being invoked here, these balls are very, very essential. In fact, when I was getting ready to do this exact video, I couldn't find these for a hot moment. And it was like, well, what's the point of me even showing off this toy if you don't have the pellets? So yeah, these balls are very important. These are the original ones that came with my set, but I'm sure if there's one item that has been lost to time over the years with this set, the millions that have been produced, it has to be these black balls. I'm pretty sure you can go online and, you know, find some really good, you know, counterparts if you were to lose them. But it's more of a shame than anything because, you know, they're just original to the set, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but I believe these are weighted and shaped in a certain way to really help the ebb and flow of this set. So if you ever happen to pick up one of these Thomas Big Loader sets, I would recommend a couple of things. You're obviously going to need that gray workhorse right there. But yeah, the balls that come with it are extremely important. They really are like the playtime, the fun time in this set. And I mean, you can still run it without the coal balls, but really it's just not the same without them. All right, let's get everybody set up. So abiding by our color scheme here, we have Thomas on the left, Percy on the right. They should always be facing each other in case you forget. Terrence, he's a bit trickier, I would say. His shovel here has a plastic piece that points down, and it is supposed to sort of kind of follow in the groove of the track that he operates with. And in my experience, it's one of those things that does help out, but it's also one of the areas of contention with this set. Sometimes Terrence's shovel will move out of this track right here, and then we start to see issues with the set. What's really great about this piece is that, you know, it's hard to tell if it has like a front or back. There is an arrow on here, but honestly, like, you can plop this down like anywhere on the set and it'll work just fine. You do have to activate this middle area here, but, you know, really not that difficult at all. So honestly, I'm just going to plop it down right there and we'll get started. the last little thing we have to do, since I made a big deal about it, is put the balls down on the play table. You can put them in a number of different areas. There's also a coal loader at like the top section of the set, but honestly, putting them here next to Terrence is far more interesting in my opinion. All right, Thomas and Percy and Terrence are ready to go. And this is what the set looks like. It doesn't take up, you know, too much square footage. It fits comfortably on a standard Thomas Wooden Railway play table. So I guess we'll give it a go. Fair warning, our little gray workhorse here does have quite the motor in him. I mean, this has to withstand, you know, you would think several thousand revolutions around our little circuit here. So the motor does tend to be a little loud. For those who don't have this item, however, turning it on is very simple. I was thinking, for example, you had to go in underneath, but there's actually a switch right there, and we are off to the races. So, without further ado, and that is basically one full circuit with this toy. So if you have never seen the Thomas Big Loader set before, yes, it is a toy that basically plays itself. There's very little human interaction. In fact, really the only human interaction is when stuff goes wrong, like with this one little pellet right here. That's what I think kind of makes this toy fun. It's kind of like playing, you know, or operating real model trains, is because you, the human, don't necessarily want to be involved. Like if everything were to, you know, go swimmingly, you would just kind of sit back and relax. But, you know, the truth is that, you know, not everything goes to plan. So you are basically an observer here, and when necessary, I guess you come in with your hand of God and can fix things. Speaking of which, so probably gonna have to stop it here. But yeah, the pellets are really great. Let me just, a moment please. So the pellets are really great. They kind of add some, for lack of a better term, some, not anxiety, but you know, there's some weight to this whole toy. It actually feels like an actual operation that is being conducted. However, if you're ever going to have issues with anything on this set, anything at all, it's really that these black pellets really like to go anywhere. You saw in that first run through, one came, you know, flying out of the top here, and fortunately landed within the track here, which is great. However, crazier things have happened. One time I had this set up, and I actually set up a wooden railway circuit all the way around, just to kind of provide like another barrier, a layer, so that if some balls skipped over this track or whatever, they wouldn't be completely lost. Because again, I do have the original ones in my possession, and I'd like to keep it that way. However, you know, accidents happen, as they say. It's kind of fun to see like how many balls Terrence picks up at once. You know, and then, you know, that enter Thomas's bunker versus Percy's bunker versus, you know, enter like this little, I guess, ball chute area here, and the coal loader. See, there's some in there. That's kind of the fun with this toy, is that, yeah, you are an observer, and you can definitely come in and fiddle with things if necessary, but I think we all agree, ideally, with big quotation marks or asterisks around ideally, you would kind of sit back and let this toy just do its thing. Speaking of which, uh-oh. So I don't have Thomas there, so there goes part of my problem. I'm gonna put Thomas here, and maybe here. Okay, let's see if we can get back on track. I know I've noticed we have a couple of runaways, but for the time being, we're just going to sit back and try to relax and enjoy this toy. This little section is always weird for me. Thomas does kind of this fake out because he has to end up backing up to the cool chute. There we go. And then he heads right down the hill. Oh no. So I did not touch Percy there. I think there was just not a great offload. The good news is that when Percy doesn't run, he doesn't trigger this because his body is not there. Oh my. So that's the thing with this toy, is if one thing goes wrong, like we see there, I think, I'm trying to help out. Okay, I think we're, no. I think the toy is actually turned around the wrong way. I think that's the problem, and that's why Percy, for example, he's not fitting. Okay. So yeah, Terrence doesn't get all the balls at once, which is kind of frustrating, and then I think they get stuck under his shovel back there, and that's part of the problem that we have, because like I said, there's that plastic piece under the shovel that sort of keeps it along the mini track here, and when that gets upset, we run into issues. So yeah, that's basically the Thomas Big Loader set in and of itself. One thing that I will bring up is that this toy, as you saw by the copyright date underneath, the first version of this toy made by TOMY was all the way back in 1977, I think it said. And for the 70s, I mean, this was a pretty advanced toy. There's some engineering going on here with the switches. That's what these are. So the fact that, you know, this is almost a 50-year-old toy is actually, like, really, really crazy. There's a couple other things I want to talk about, but I don't want to yell over the our gray workhorse over there. So yeah, I was always kind of mixed on this toy because on one hand it was cool. Like, it was kind of a cool toy to walk up to. Like, let's say you're at a train show, for example, and you walk up to a table and there's a bunch of other things to look at, but there's also a train layout there or something. This has always just felt like one of those things that's cool to watch, but kind of like in limited doses. Maybe I would have felt different as a kid, but looking at it now, it's like, yes, it's cool, and yes, I'd like to be able to just run this thing and see what it does, but in the back of my mind, I'm always like, I mean, you saw how many problems we had in just that, small amount of time. I think maybe, as weird as it sounds, if you let it run a couple more times and get the kinks worked out or whatever, you could probably sit back, with your favorite beverage and let this toy just do its thing. And there really wouldn't be any risk or worry that something would go wrong. However, it's not a perfect toy, and so you're always kind of like on guard when watching this toy. Maybe for kids it's a lot more fun because that's where their interaction comes in. It's like, oh, well, Percy fell over, or the gray workhorse is in trouble. Like, I get to go fix it. But I think nowadays, I mean, even back when this toy was introduced, I think there's just safer toys to play with. I mean, believe me, I think this is an awesome toy. As someone who grew up with, incredible amounts of wooden railway, anything that moves on its own is just like, magic to me. It's absolutely crazy. So to sit back and watch a toy, do the playing for me is definitely a little interesting. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, do you really want to pay for a toy that basically, plays by itself? Like, in a perfect world, there would be no human interaction. And I think, we know that's not the case. There's always going to need to be like a little bit of like human oversight here. But, the majority of what this toy goes through during playtime, like, again, very little human interaction needed. Like I said earlier, I find the history of this toy to just be fascinating. The fact that it was developed in 1977 as a generic construction site, construction worker set. I found this awesome website that I'll link to in the description, but it's basically kind of like a write-up of the history of this toy and how when it came to the United States in 1977, I mean, it was a massive success. It's hard to believe, you know, looking back, 1977, that's only 5 years removed from the last Thomas and Friends story that Wilbur, the Reverend W. Audrey wrote. That's a totally different era. It's almost 50 years, you know, from now. Again, I'm fudging a few years here and there, but that's basically what it is. And then the Thomas version of this set came over in like the early or the mid 90s, I want to say. And it was very well received. But what's crazy is I'll throw up a picture of the patent for this item and look at the track layout. Like nothing has changed. I mean, my set is about 25 years since the original. But that's the thing is there's even a more current version of the set out there. It's kind of hard to find information on this. It's like they released it, you know, like mid 2010s or so. And as of right now, as of the making of this video, it's not available on Amazon. It's like they made a certain number of them and then they ran out and they've yet to either replenish their stock or, you know, maybe they're just done producing it for the time being. I think this toy kind of ebbs and flows with the times. For example, there's a John Deere variant, almost like an overlay of this exact set. And there probably have been other, you know, sponsorships or overlays pertaining to different companies. And I think they just kind of go through, you know, peaks of popularity and then it kind of dies out. And maybe that's part of Tomy's strategy is they release it and they let the toy do their thing. And then, you know, it kind of like, you know, not every single child, you know, out there is going to have this toy. And then, I don't know, like 5 or 10 years later, it's like, boom, here's the Thomas Big Loader set again, or here's the John Deere version, you know, have at it. Like, look at, isn't this such like an incredible toy? And I think that's a testament to this toy is even though the design is almost 50 years old, it still, you know, feels like, I guess, it has, you know, the feeling of a classic toy, but it still can be very enjoyable to this day, which I think a lot of toys from that era, I wouldn't say that, it's not that they haven't aged well, I think that you'll just struggle to find the same amount of enjoyment from a toy from the 70s, you know, as you will here. What I think is very interesting is, like I said, the patent for this toy, or the overall design of this toy with the track system and everything, it's coming up on 50 years old. And this version is dated 2001, which is roughly 25 years, not only ago, but also, you know, 25 years past 1977. So really, this is like, you know, a very interesting version of the toy to look at because we have the original patent, like the original you know, spirit of the toy came from the mid 70s, and then 25 years later we have this version featuring Thomas characters, and then 25 years after that, I mean, it's me making this video on this toy 25 years later. So this is, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very enjoyable toy. It's fun to watch. It's fun to look at all the different pieces, but maybe the best way to put it is this: if you're somebody who likes to relax while playing with toys, which I think most of us would be, this toy can maybe be a little stress-inducing because it's like you don't know what's going to happen. Like, are all of the balls going to stay in this area? Most of them do not. I saw a couple fly off earlier. So if you ever happen to get this toy and you really want to keep everything together, you should probably put it, you know, in some type of, there should be some type of boundary beyond the actual toy so that you don't lose, you know, any precious items that happen to fly away during play. Like I said, I think we can all agree that the play design of this toy is absolutely genius. I mean, the fact that it's just one, I keep calling it the one workhorse that's doing all the work, running around the different areas, and you know, it's like a Rube Goldberg machine. It's this toy that, you know, one thing leads to another, and every single part of this toy, it's almost like actions have consequences. You know, the coal comes from Percy's bunker to Terrence's area where he loads it up into Thomas's bunker, and then Thomas drops it off at the coal loader, and then Percy comes by and gets the coal from the coal loader, and then he dumps it off. I mean, it's a very fascinating little relay, and it's certainly enjoyable. But, you know, I think maybe the biggest downside to this toy, one, would be if you like to relax, it can be a little bit anxiety-inducing for sure. But second, if you lose some crucial pieces in this set, I mean, basically if you lose anything from the set as it sits right now, you're going to have a hard time, unfortunately. Probably the biggest one would be the workhorse piece. I mean, this is where the magic is made. This is how everything gets moved around. The shells of the engines are not only for decoration, but, you know, you need the areas, if you want to use it with the balls, you need like their little bunker areas so that they can dump and move the balls everywhere. So Thomas and Percy are not just for decoration. It's not just to give this set, oh yeah, that's like a total Thomas toy right there. No, I mean, like, if you want this to work as it is expected to work, you're going to need these two right here. And, you know, they're probably made out of some durable plastic, but you would hate to see, you know, this get kicked around or stepped on and broken in half. And I don't know, maybe back in the day when this toy was more widely produced across all of the versions, maybe you could get into contact with TOMY and they would send you replacement pieces. You know, I made a big deal about the balls because, you know, I really think that's where the magic is. We can obviously pretend that, you know, oh, Percy has some coal in his bunker and then it goes to Terrence and blah, blah, blah. I think, honestly, if you wanted to run this toy without the stress, you should probably remove the coal balls from the equation. That would make life a little bit easier, but that's kind of where the fun is too. You know, you do kind of want like that the suspicion of chaos or the element of chaos kind of waiting around every turn, like you don't know if the toy's going to work right or not. So really, that's kind of like my major pros and cons. This is a genius toy. It has stood the test of time. I think my biggest, like, I guess, question mark is that as it sits right now, as of the making of this video, finding new versions of this toy are a bit hard to find. I remember seeing them in stores a couple of years ago, you know, within the last probably 8 to 10 years. But nowadays, if you want this toy and you don't stumble upon an old version like this or whatever, I mean, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but you're kind of out of luck. You know, you're gonna need a new version. I'd say nothing wrong with buying a used version of this, but you really want to make sure it has all of the parts and pieces. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna get home and even if you're missing just like a single piece of straight track, well, everything is used here. This set really can't be edited in any way. You can't shorten it in any way that I can tell. Just because, you know, all of the pieces and parts have, they play an important role. And again, I think that's a positive, but, you know, kids are crazy with their toys and things get lost and, you know, they get moved around and sometimes it's, you know, it could probably be a headache trying to keep all of the parts and pieces to this set in order. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is keeping them under control. Like you saw, I had the plastic bag there for the coal balls and stuff. And like, that's just me not wanting to lose those. You know, I don't want to have to take the time to go and find a replacement. So the style and design of this toy, you know, absolute perfection. I mean, it really is like almost wizardry watching this thing. But I'd say the negatives are mostly just related to like the realities of owning this toy and being a child and maybe losing parts and pieces after a while, which unfortunately is, you know, like I said, it's a reality. But overall, you know, this toy is so much fun to watch and to look at. And oddly, it's very fun to watch as a group because usually somebody will kind of take control and start to fix things as they go wrong. And then when that's taken over, then someone like me, can just sit here and watch it and just kind of marvel at how awesome it is. Like I mentioned, one of the extra pieces that I have that I've never done anything with is this sticker sheet. I can't remember if there was initially a sticker sheet for the engines and the important stuff, but anyway, I have this sticker sheet right here from 2001 in all its glory. And one thing I did want to do as part of this video is actually finally take the time to adhere these things where they're supposed to go. The problem is I don't have the instructions if there were any instructions, but honestly, I think I'm just gonna look to the back of the box there and try to fudge my way through it. For example, I know like this Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends logo goes like right there in the center. There's currently not anything there. And then these inclines, oh, you know, they probably go to that ascending track right there in the background. So I'm going to try to work my way through this and actually make the Thomas Big Loader up to what it's supposed to be and get it all decorated with these nice stickers here. So fun fact, stickers from 2001 don't want to stick all too well, but overall I think I did a pretty good job. If you have some eagle eyes out there, you may be able to spot where I've added these decals. And yeah, I do think it adds a little bit of character to the set. I will say though, you know, it's definitely something, if you buy one of these new in box, you're going to want to do it like straight out of the box when you pick it up. or take it out for the first time, just because you have to dismantle the whole set to really, to put all the extra stickers on. So it was a fun time, but yeah, I think the first one I did was this bridge back here, and it was like, oh yeah, this sticky residue isn't super great. It's fine. As of right now, just sitting here for about 10 or 15 minutes, these stickers have not gone anywhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if I throw everything back on the box here and then I take some stuff out, after a little while, and we're kind of back to, stuff falling off. So who knows? I think maybe the only other thing you could do is just come in with like some clear like packing tape and just tape them out like really, really good. Personally, the stickers that were already there, I'm guessing, and again, I assume this came with instructions, but I'm guessing some of the stickers were already pre-applied. Like Thomas was here and Percy was here, because I can't imagine me not, taking the time to do all the stickers. Like, why would I do half of them and not the other ones? But the point I'm trying to make is that the stickers that were already applied straight out of the box are the most important ones. Like even these, color-coded things for Thomas and Percy, you may not take enough time to look at the box to figure that out. So anyway, here is the completed sticker sheet. I want to give a few final thoughts on the big loader, and then we'll let it run for a little bit. So like I've said, I think this is just a fantastic toy. Again, there appears to just be like some magic going on, similar to how, again, a very specific example, but when I used to show stuff off, current Thomas merchandise at train shows like 8 years ago, there was a little bit of, magic with the kids seeing, some of the Trackmaster Revolution sets, such as the Shipwreck Rails set, or even like, I think it was, I can't remember the name off the top of it, but I'll throw a picture up right now. And some of those sets do some like little weird and wacky things, and the kids watching them, it may sound ridiculous to someone a little bit older, but, kids do find that stuff really amusing, and I find this entire set to be amusing. It really is a great time. And I think, as someone who's older and maybe is not as amazed with this as I would be if I was someone half my age or even a quarter of my age, I find the history of this item to just be absolutely fantastic. The fact that it's been around for nearly 50 years, it's a tried and true design. And then, yeah, once in a while, TOMY will come in with basically a collaboration with a big company like Thomas or John Deere, and they'll make a version of it. So being, made by TOMY is definitely a little strange. It's hard to find some super concrete evidence on this toy or information that I'd like to share. But I will refer you to that article that I found that has like the patent photo and just some nice quotes from the times of how this toy was received. And honestly, I'm sure this toy has received pretty much critical acclaim all of its life. But there was a quote related to the Thomas version where somebody was like, big whoop, it's a toy that plays itself. Like, how interesting is that? And I think that's a fair point, but I also think that we sometimes as adults just don't see the magic that is these toys right here. So anyway, I'm in love with this toy. I think it's an all-time classic. I think if there was a Hall of Fame for Thomas toys, for any type of Thomas merchandise, and that's a lot of Thomas merchandise, over the years with all the different brands. Absolutely crazy. I think this would be like a first round Hall of Famer type toy. The fact that it's, a classic toy, in and of itself, but then it's almost like, the Thomas version of the toy just kind of catapults it to, legendary success, in my opinion. So anyway, that's going to do it for the little history part of this video, but I thought we'd let the big loader run around one more time, just for funsies, and see what other shenanigans we get into.
right, that has gone a lot more swimmingly. It takes about, my unofficial count is about 45 seconds to do a circuit, if everything goes right and nothing gets messed up, which again, sometimes happens. But yeah, having been able to watch it the last couple times without any mess ups, it has been truly enjoyable. You know, I'm not saying mess ups won't occur, accidents, you know, are never not going to happen, but it has been very enjoyable just watching it do its thing. And it's honestly just a mesmerizing toy. It's like you're almost under a trance and don't want to look away. So anyway, I think that about wraps it up for this awesome Thomas Big Loader set here. Really can't praise this toy enough. And you know, looks like Percy's stuck. Okay, well, I mean, what, we've had 4 or 5 rounds and nothing's gone wrong, so I'll call that a win. But anyway, I think, you know, maybe just one of the more disappointing aspects to this toy is, as of the making of this video, it's just not that well available. You know, you could probably go to some sketchy website and pay a fortune for it, but you know, I think there is something really special about this toy, and you know, I would encourage you to pick it up if that's something you want to do. But I totally get, like, as of right now, it's just kind of a more difficult toy to find. I think more recent versions have changed the colors of things. You know, there's just been a few upgrades. Like, there's probably some CGI faces on Thomas and Percy. I know the purists will cringe, but who knows? Like, maybe the next step for this type of toy is, you know, an all engines go variation. I mean, they're more stocky. I mean, that's the thing, is this was based off of construction trucks originally. So their shapes are, you know, like that's not really a Thomas shape. It suffices, but it's not a Thomas shape. So anyway, if I find anything more, anything cool about this toy, I'll be sure to let everyone know, because yeah, just watching it do its thing is, like I said, very mesmerizing. And I think probably one of the things with the newer versions is the motor's a little bit quieter, and you could probably, you know, I wouldn't say fall asleep to this. I think there's always going to be a part of your brain, you know, looking out, making sure everything's okay. But, you know, when things get running, when we kind of get like I guess like the issues worked out, it is a very relaxing toy in a sense. You just kind of let it do its thing, and then you remember where it goes. And yeah, it's just kind of like everything coming together, and it's a very beautiful time. So that's going to do it, friends. Thank you so much for watching. If you're able, let me know what you think of the Thomas Big Loader in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you on the next video.